Hola! Welcome to another episode of I Am Not Your Therapist with me, Christina, aka Recoloring Christina. Today's episode is going to be talking about the holidays aren't what they used to be. I'm going to be processing this theory that I've come up with of being like in between families as a single woman living in the Latina culture and just exploring what comes up, seeing if anyone else feels this way or can relate, especially to not having kids yet and the expectation of where I should be. And so, yeah, a little bit about this show. This show is about me exploring my boundaries, my self awareness, and really just relationships and what it has to do with my culture. And I want to be more organic, more flowing, and just more natural, week to week. And so, I'm hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids. I get loud. My bad, y'all. So take care of your ears. Take care of what you need to do. Take this in chunks because I'm going to be real raw, real authentic. And so if you need to pause and come back to this later, go ahead and do that. But what else do I do? Oh, yeah. This ain't got nothing to do with any contracts or companies that I have in partnership. This is a sole entity of Christina Fontenelle and not a reflection of Fontenelle art in any way. It's just a platform in which it streams, and it will be changing coming January. It's going to be transferring over to my Recoloring Christina page. So stay up to date with that, and let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to be doing some live painting today because I could either only paint during my break or I could record the podcast. And I didn't want to choose one or the other, so I decided to do both. So you're going to be in for a special treat today. I usually work with several canvases at the same time, usually like around 5 to 7, just because I move around so much. Today I'll try to be a little bit more centered and focused, but I do have 2 canvases set up, so that's why. And I'm nervous to talk about it, as I always am every week, but it's necessary, and I heal and I grow and I expand every time I do this, so I keep pushing myself. So I'm going to keep showing up. So let me move this over here. This topic is challenging because I feel, I don't know, I struggle because, my parents are actually in Colombia right now. You won't hear a lot of sound effects with the paint. My parents are in Colombia right now. They've been there since last year. They actually only went for vacation for Christmas. And then they were supposed to come back in March, and March 15th to be exact. And that was like the day that the world shut down. And so they've been there ever since. They've been there for a year, and that's crazy. Anyways, when it comes to, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, I'm so used to like what it used to be when I was a kid, where we would like have parties, people would come over, we would have food, and it's not even because of COVID, but it's because of other family stuff that has come up where my family has just drifted apart, and for some reasons that were out of our control and other reasons that were choices, and I just can't help but sit and reflect on like, wow, like taking shots, playing music till 6 a.m. I'm used to spending majority of my Christmases in Colombia with my parents and my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. It's just a good time, good weather, everyone's free. I would take that month off and not be anyone's therapist and replenish myself. And this year is different. I think, as with everyone else, this year has allowed us to have more space to process and to really sit with things that may have been underneath the surface that may not have been explored if we didn't have this capacity. And I feel like a +1 in my family. I can't get this orange. And what I mean by +1 is that, like, so you got my parents who are in Colombia, you got my brother who lives out in Bartlett, And he has a wife and 2 kids, and his kids are grown, you know. I think Andre just turned 21 or 22. I should know. He's my nephew. And then my niece, who's a teenager. And then my sister, who lives out in Rockford, but you know, she usually does her own thing around the holidays. And so I feel like I tag along with my brother and his family, because you know, it's my nephew and his girlfriend, it's my niece, but she's usually like, I don't know, she's still like young enough where you don't expect her to have like a serious partner. And then you have all the other extensions of the family, my sister-in-law who lives out in Gurney, and their kids and all of that. So it's like we're together, but this, okay, it's coming up. This is not where I expected to be. 30 years old for the holidays. I think this is bringing up these expectations that I had over myself of, you know, 28, I'll be settled down, I'll probably be engaged, I'll have a partner, and we'll be, you know, looking for a house, just all these, you know, nice, not that they're bad things to want to expect, but like that is, I saw 28 and over, and I just knew that I was going to be with someone. I knew that I was going to have kids. I knew that I was going to be married. I knew that I was going to have a house. And I think just turning 30 in itself, I feel like that Mr. Crab meme, where everything was just like, what? Life just came at me so fast. I was like, this is 30? Like this level of self-awareness and growth and expectation. And so to be in the reality and not having seen this, it's challenging for me. It's hard for me to accept. It's hard for me to be in. Like even over Thanksgiving, it was great. I enjoyed it. It was wonderful. We saw family. It was the first time that a lot of us were together in a very long time. But I still felt like a +1. And when it comes to these particular family members, like my brother, his family, and my sister-in-law's sister, I just call her my sister-in-law, I think they know that not asking me if I'm dating anyone and not asking me if, you know, if I'm going anywhere serious or if I'm planning to settle down, I think that they know that I'm very sensitive when it comes to that, and they respect my boundary of those holiday questions. But then it gets weird because I think people try to find ways to bond with me by talking about my business. Or like, you know, hey, you know, I saw you got this contract or you got this new partnership. And I don't want people to like default to that. And so I'm like exploring, like, why is that the only 2 things that is common or respectful to talk about? Like, either it's work or your roles in the family. And I don't like it because it's messing with me. It's messing with me mentally. I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine from high school, and we kind of got into it a little bit, but it was, I don't know. I'm curious to hear anyone else's thoughts about this, but like he was like, you know, you're so accomplished, you got your business, you got all these degrees, you're doing all these great things. And when it comes to community work, oh yeah, absolutely. I love it, I'm for it, I'm here. You know, it's for the youth, it's to pour back. But I don't feel like I need to reward myself for having gone to college, or need to reward myself for having a full-time job, or I need to reward myself for being, you know, independent and established. I feel like that's like someone saying like, I don't know, I go back and forth, because then it's like someone saying like, great job, you took a shower today, or great job, you ate today. And yes, it may be a struggle depending on where you're at in life, but Like, no, these are your basic human things that you should be doing. I feel like I, for myself, needed to get an education. That was expected of me. I expected that of myself. So I don't want to be like, hey, I got a degree. No. I got a degree. I'm grateful. I apply it. I worked for it. But it's not enough. Like, I don't feel satisfied. I don't feel satisfied. And I think that speaks to, obviously what people have said to me in the past, or I don't know, I've always been rewarded or praised for like going to school and stuff. When I started my education, I started at University of Illinois Springfield, and I was going to be a doctor. Like, that's what I thought I was going to be, and obviously I went on a journey that had to do with art and becoming, a psychotherapist, but I think that I'm looking for more because of that dream that I had of a 14-year-old, of having my life planned out and being in it. I'm like, this is not what it's supposed to look like. This is not what I expected it to look like. This is not what I need it to look like. But this is what it looks like. And this is where I'm at. And there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to force anything with anyone just to be able to be like, hey, I'm 30, I made my... No. I'm not going to make a lifelong decision based off of temporary emotion. But that means I have to sit in it. That means that I have to accept it. And I know I can't be the only one that feels like they're in between families. Because when it comes to my brother, he's 11 years older than me. And maybe like once I hit 20, 21, I was okay with just being with him and his family. But now I feel like a tag along. Or I feel like, oh, I'm riding with you guys because I don't have my own partner or my own situation going on for Christmas. So I'm just going to go over here. And I talked to my sister-in-law about it, and she was like, you shouldn't look at it that way. Like, you're not a plus one, you're family. Like, what are you talking about? And she's known me since I was 7 or 8. She's known me for a very, very, very long time. And so she saw me grow up. She saw me go through all the changes. And I was trying to hear her out, but it's just like, I think that even if I was with someone, I would still have that layer of like, okay, we're dating. Like, I didn't plan to be dating anyone at 30. And so it's not so much where I'm at, but it's the mindset I have about where I'm at. And that's what needs to change or shift. And that's one of the things I hate about our Latino culture. That these things were so ingrained in us at such a young age, that it takes so much work to dissect, it takes so much work to acknowledge and bring things to the surface. Oh, I don't like this color. And then in the fight of trying to bring these things up, there's shame and guilt for me. To be very honest, I feel like although I have all these degrees, let me be real honest. A big piece of me feels like I disappointed my parents. And that's the truth right there. And that's why I'm in a lot of therapy. I feel like I disappointed my parents because, one of the first things they ask when I get on the phone, in particular my mom, is like, oh, so, did you find anyone? And it's like, Ma, I just talked to you like 2 days ago or last week. No, I did not find anyone yet. And just that pressure, like it's one of the first things that she says when we get on the phone. Oh, did you find anyone? How's the house? How's work? And maybe it's me. Maybe I've been toying with this idea since last night, but it's like maybe I need to show people how to love me at this stage or this area or this moment in my life. I know that I've heard that several times before, that we need to show people how to love us and how to care for us, and then our love languages. Sorry, you guys can't see. Our love languages, and it's draining. I don't want to show someone how to love me. I think it's so natural for me to be like, well, it's common sense. Of course I want this, or of course I want you to get on the phone and say, hey, how are you today? But it's only common sense to me because that's what I do to everyone. Like, even if I go into a restaurant, that's the first thing I say. I talk to the waitress. Hi, what's your name? Who are you? What do you do? How's your day going? How are your tables? What's the most exciting thing that's happened? I like to see people for who they are, as humans, as an individual, as a person that has emotions, and not just like a servant, or not just a server, or not just someone who's going to take my order. Not saying that if they have a bad day, I'm going to excuse it, but I'm going to be understanding because I have bad days and I'm not perfect. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about mental health, and like these little conversations go a long, long way. But common sense isn't so common for everyone. And so the next thing I think of is like, I'm sure that there are other people out there of all backgrounds and races where it's like, oh, you've been dating for, X amount of time. When are you guys gonna, tie the knot? And then you tie the knot. And then it's like, okay, when are you guys gonna have a kid? And then you have a kid. And then it's, when are you guys gonna have another kid? When are you guys gonna buy a house? Well, screw you. Unless you're gonna buy me the house and take away all these student loans that I have, let me live my life the way I'm living it, and the way that God said is okay. Well, that looks really cool back there. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But the problem that I'm sorting through is how I feel towards myself. And that's what needs to change. And it doesn't have to change overnight. I hear my therapist in my head. It's not an overnight process. But it's when those thoughts come up, being able to acknowledge them, to see them, and then, tell them that I hear you. But that's not where I'm at. And that's not my reality. I'm going to have to come up with a term. But I have another enlightenment, another aha moment. What if it's been so ingrained in me that, like, to reach ultimate life success, it's family and house and all of that, that's why I'm not satisfied with my degrees? Because I do want to go back to school. I want to go back and get a PhD. I'm still thinking about what category or what sequence I want to go into. I'm really interested in neurology and the brain. And so I know that would be very, very challenging, but so rewarding because I love it. Obviously my podcast is about, psychoanalyzing and having these verbal conversations out loud. And I want to understand everything about the brain as much as I can. But then I'm also interested in going into expressive arts as a PhD program, because then I would get exposed to like writing, music, writing therapy, poetry, music therapy, and a couple of other things, and how to like really be certified and combine that into the services I offered. So I don't know yet, but I know my next life goal, quote unquote, is to get a home. And so going back to that conversation I was having with my friends from high school, like after kind of getting into it with him a little bit, I realized, like, what if? What if I get this house? What if I get my dream house? My condo? And what if it's not enough? Then what? And that scares me. That really, really scares me. What if I get this house and I'm still not happy? What if it's like a honeymoon, where it's like, oh, I did it, like I'm taking care of myself, I'm providing for myself, and then it goes away. Because that's what happens with my degrees. So, like, in the moment, right when I got it, crossing the finish line, I was like, this was torture, this was so hard. And I went and did it again for 3 years. And it was like, it was challenging, but it was more rewarding than my art therapy one. This is the dance movement therapy one. Because that one was in New York, and it was fun, and it was like with fresh people, and it was more movement based, and so it was more exciting for me. But then I faded into like, yeah, I'm a dance therapist. And I catch myself when people are like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I go into like the zombie, like, yeah, the benefits of dance movement therapy, it's in our culture, it's ingrained, why not use what we already have in order to provide therapy? And I just go into like the presentation, Christina, as opposed to like, yeah, isn't it awesome? So I'm trying to figure that out. Slowly but surely, I'm figuring that out. And I think a piece of me can acknowledge that when it was the holidays, sorry, I got something on my back. When it was the holidays and I was in Colombia, like, although they would ask me those questions of like, when are you going to settle down and blah, 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 I at least had cousins who were my age where we would save each other from the conversations, where I would like look at my cousin and I'd be like, and give a little eye signal. She'd come and be like, Christina, let's go over here and do this, or like, let's go, grab this, and let's go over here and do anything else but sit in this conversation. And I think I appreciated that because it validated that, hey, I have cousins my age and older who do not have kids yet and do not have homes and are still, figuring out life. And so I felt like one of them. That's good insight to have. It made me feel not alone during the holidays in Colombia. But I don't feel that here. I don't have any cousins or uncles or aunts here. They're all in Colombia. And out of my siblings, I have a brother and a sister. I visited the most. I've been going to Colombia since I was 2 years old, and we would go at least every other year. And then when I lived in Miami, I went 4 times in 1 year. And then after I came back, I would go every year. So this is the first year that I have not gone after being used to going so much since 2016. And so maybe I'm feeling a little bit of like, what's the word? Grief. I feel like grief resonates with that. Like feeling a little bit of grief that the traditions are not the same. I don't know. Like it was, growing up, the holidays were great here, but ain't no party like a Colombia party, okay? Seriously, like people are in the pool at 7 a.m., drunk, wasted, have not slept. They got the soup going, cooking on wood. The olla is like this big. Everyone's got styrofoam cups. We're drinking. We're just having fun. Like being there, it was just, I wasn't a therapist. I wasn't the savior. I wasn't the helper. I wasn't the expert. I wasn't the professional. I was Christina. Angela y David's daughter. That's it. Christina the cousin. Christina someone's niece. Christina someone's, whatever cousin, whatever the relation was. I just didn't feel the pressure. And no one's putting pressure on me here, but I just felt they're more distracted or more occupied in my time. So what do you do? What do you do when you're an adult and you're in between families? What are people doing now where they maybe can't even see their family? How are they handling things? How are they adjusting? I don't know. All I know that it's tough, it's uncomfortable, it's weird. It's making me face and notice things. And I just know that I got a lot of undoing to do. Because it kind of scares me. Every night I 1 second, I'm gonna drink some tea. Shout out to my cup. I love being black. Woo woo woo. It's on the website if you're interested in getting one. It's great. The inside is blue. I love it. But every night I do self-care, where I sit with my emotions. I do positive affirmations. I stretch. I get in my body. I have a list of things that I accomplished. And it comes up when I do my positive affirmations. And I've been doing it more and longer. I usually do like a page of like, I am this, I am that, I am strong, I am accomplished, I will get this. Like where I'm at, what I've done, and where I want to be is in my positive affirmations. Excuse me. And I have been struggling being present in my own affirmations. I don't know what the zombie state is for me, why I'm here so much. I think it's definitely escapism, a way for me to process. I use the analogy of like the Wizard of Oz. Like I feel like there's a part of me that is like the Wiz, on the screen, and like I have all the answers and I know what to do and I'm accomplished and I'm well put together and I'm successful. And then like behind the scenes, I'm behind the curtain, I'm just like, I don't want to get up for work today, or like I want to sleep in, or I wish I can just go anywhere I want, like just trying to hold myself together. And I'm trying to dismantle this belief that people think I'm perfect. A lot of people put me on pedestals, and when I set boundaries or I try to redirect them, like we get into it, and it's like, because you expect so much of me. This is what this whole podcast is about. This podcast is to show people that I am not perfect. I am far from perfect. I really am. I am human. And I think people expect answers all the time from me, or solutions, or I'm a problem solver. Yeah, sometimes I put myself in those situations that I shouldn't. But it's like me proclaiming to myself, like, I'm not your therapist. What role do I play where I have allowed people to think that of me? Or I want to save certain people. It's like, well, let's talk about it. Let's help. You lost this, a cousin, you lost this person. How can I be there for you? And I constantly have to check myself and be like, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope that you have community support. I'll talk to you whenever. Because inside I'm like, well, when does this happen, and how do you feel and what's going on and what are your thoughts? And it's like, but that's not my job. I am not your therapist. And so for me to be able to sit with myself during this weird time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm just recognizing, like, how do these thoughts of what others expect me to be, what I expect myself to have or have accomplished versus how I'm treating people. And I talked about this with another therapist friend who was the first person to ever recognize out loud with me. Like, this was the first time I heard a therapist say, yeah, I put together this program because I'm going through so much trauma that I would feel better putting this on and helping other people, because what I have going on is way too much. And I was like, you do that too? Where do you think all these ideas come from? I'm like, my life is in shambles as I'm behind a curtain trying to put things together. So let me put your life together, since I'm too close to my own issues and my own stuff. Isn't that interesting how we function? It's really interesting. I don't know if you can hear the song, but there's a song playing called Thank You by Beautiful Chorus in the background. I can't paint without music. This would be super weird. It's like, do we thank ourselves enough? Am I thanking myself enough, Christina? And I've been talking to myself in third person a lot in my writing. We're like, Christina will accomplish this. Christina will do this. Trying to just switch around some of the thoughts that I have, like, well, I expect. Well, Christina, let me speak to myself outside of myself and give myself permission to say this or express this or think this or feel this. I can be tough on myself, and like I said, I'm scared that, what if I do get that house? No. When I do get that house, I don't want to have those emotions of like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, 3-bedroom condo, with an oceanfront view. What's next? Like, that would terrify me. I would be like, God, I'm grateful, I swear. Don't take it away from me. And so that just revealed another fear that I have, that like, if I don't get out of this, whatever, I got a degree, or like, whatever, this was cool, that God's going to take it away from me. Because I feel like that comes across as like ungrateful, as unappreciative. I got to sip some tea on that. I have a fear that if I don't appreciate every little thing that God gives me, that is going to get snatched away. And I feel like I go above and beyond. And it's genuine. It comes from a genuine place. But I ask that feeling or thought to stay longer than it does, naturally. Because it's like, come on, we got to live life. We got to appreciate it. If we don't appreciate it, someone else is going to have it. It makes no sense. It makes sense, but it makes no sense. Oh, fear. Fear, fear, fear. I don't want to have this type of relationship with the holidays where it's like, okay, what am I going to process this year around? Of course, I want to grow and I want to learn and expand, but like, 2020 has been a year. I'm tired. I'm tired of processing. And I feel like with this given space, and because I live alone, it's like another level of, well, I'm a therapist. There are people who don't have access to therapists, and they wish that they had tools to be able to heal and fix themselves. And so I have this weird obligation of like, well, because I have the tools, I hold myself to a standard or a level of expectation like, well, there's no excuse why you're still struggling with that. Because you have art and movement and this and the degree to help you do it. And so, with that having had come up, I brought it to my therapist, and she's like, you're not your own therapist, Christina. I'm like, own therapist. And you know why I can't be my own therapist? Because we have blind spots. Oh, isn't this blue such a beautiful color? Oh my gosh, I love blue. It makes me feel so happy. It feels so soothing. Although I'm not my own therapist, I can use these tools to release. And my struggle is that when I release, I try to solve. I'm like, okay, I recognize this emotion. Why am I feeling this emotion? Where did this come from? As opposed to just like putting it out in the world and saying, this is where I'm at. This is what I feel. And I'm going to take my time through it, in it, outside of it, whatever I want it to be. But just I'm trying to give myself a lot of permission to feel, to move, and to just reframe the thoughts that have been placed in me, through me. Because it's dangerous if we don't go back and reflect on what we were taught and how it affects our thought process and how it affects our relationship with ourselves. What are we going to do once the holidays pass? We're still going to be in COVID. We're still going to have these emotions. We're still going to have these struggles per se. I know that COVID isn't going to go away as soon as 2021 comes, But just to be able to say that we made it through. They're going to make movies about this year. Like, this is history. We are going to be in movies. I think that's so cool. But we're still in it. I really love the way blue and white blend together. I'll put some over here so you can see it. Maybe right here. When I do paint and express, I have like a key. And it's like a map where like if I use certain colors, it allows me to see like, oh, this and this means that. This and this means this. Yellow means God, white means pure, blue means like sadness is trying to push through. And I'm trying to do better at just painting and not like, well, why is this blue coming up? Why do I psychoanalyze myself? This is just what it is. It's blue. I chose to put blue here on top of the yellow. But sometimes having too much self-awareness can be dangerous too. I've noticed that it takes me away from the present. And that's called hyper-awareness. So you're going to learn something today. Hyper-awareness, hyper-vigilant. Is a result sometimes of trauma or having gone a situation where you have to like be on edge. An example would be if God forbid someone has broken into someone else's home, and so every day after that they're like checking the windows and looking at the doors and like they're just on edge, not paranoid but just hyper aware. And so I don't want to be so aware of myself. I just want to be like, oh, that happened. Okay. That's where I'm at. Let it go. I don't put up Christmas. My mom asked me, if I put up any Christmas lights or a Christmas tree. And I never liked to. And I never have independently. And I think that's interesting because, and I know a lot of people who are single do this, but I feel like because I don't have a family, and it makes no sense, but because I don't have a family, like it's just for me. Like no one's going to help me put it up, no one's going to help me take it down, no one's going to look at it, it's just me. And I think that's interesting. that I feel that way. That in my mind, I equate certain traditions with certain people or certain ways of doing this. I will gladly watch other people do it and see their houses and be like, oh, that's so beautiful. But for me, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. And so, as I begin to wrap up, although I'm in between families, I myself am my own family. I am my own unit. I don't feel it, and I want to try and embrace that this year. I'm seeing how it goes and how it feels in my body to do that. To just say, like, if I want to cook this meal and celebrate this, then I can. Because I deserve it. Because I'm worthy. It's so tough. This year's been really tough. And I think it's just so hard being an adult this day and age. But we will push through. And I am learning and I am expanding. And that can be enough for today. Enough for me to accept that, like, this is it. This is what's up. This is what's happening. This is where I'm at. But please believe that in 1 year, I have huge expectations of where I want my life to be. Crap. Maybe I need to explore goals. Because then if a year I'm not where I'm at, then I'm going to feel disappointed again. Or be like, oh yeah, I got it one step closer to where I want it to be. Finding a balance. That's what it is. I need to find a balance. That when my goals happen, they will happen when they're meant to happen. I don't have to force it. I don't have to drag it. I'm not God. My life is already planned out. All I have to do is wake up every day and try. Do what I was created to do. Help others. Bring joy. Bring happiness. Help people feel seen. Help people, help families, come together and bring healing. Yeah, that's what it is. I feel an inkling to want to lead you into a meditation experience, but that's me being a therapist. And so I'm going to name it, but I'm not going to do it. Because that's a reflection that means that I need to do that in this moment. I need to take a breather and just sit with my art. Sit with these emotions. And so I will say to myself, I am enough. I am whole. I am a family. I am worthy. I am seen. I am cared for. I am not a burden. I am not forgotten. I am not afraid. I am intelligent. I am loved. I am remembered. I am color. I am joy. light. I am enough. In all that I do, I am enough. In all that I say, I am enough. In all that I accomplish, I am enough. In all that I feel, I am enough. I don't have to prove myself to anyone. I don't have to prove myself to anything. As long as I stay connected to God, I will always be centered and grounded. And it's okay to have these emotions. And it's okay to feel them. And that is today's episode of I Am Not Your Therapist. If you know anyone that can relate, benefit, grow, expand, feel validated in me being open and sharing, please like, share, subscribe, and send this to someone. I do it for me, but if there's one person that can see this and be like, I feel that too, then that will help us as a whole. So, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a great weekend. Adios.